So the female artists and even the male artists from the past up until today were never going to change the rape culture within the industry. What they do from this point onward has yet to be seen. I mean, just going out and talking about something is kind of like, I mean, it gets the ball rolling maybe, but if you actually don't put your foot down and take a stand against something, then nothing's going to happen. If you're going to be still working with the same people and allowing it and making excuses, well, they're really my good friend, and I forgive them, and that's the problem. Like, they don't do anything about it. So, and most of these people, the ones that, I'm bringing up, it's not like a one-off time, where some guy made a single mistake or something like way back in the day and he got in trouble and then he didn't do it anymore. It's not even just that, because I mean, that shows you that person learned their lesson and they fucking grew up. And we're talking about other people who have a series of violent behavior and rapey behavior with women and also minors. Minors is a big thing, and I always love when these guys write books and things and they talk about them like they're non-existent, like they're just a thing, and that they're a groupie and not a human being, and you're getting one side of a story, and so they totally degrade them in a way, and then people respond, like the fans respond, and in fact, I'll show you how one guy responded to this. So we're going to talk about Anthony Kiedis, and then we'll get back into R. Kelly, because I was going to talk about the similarities between these two guys. So, way back in the day, like I never liked them. I didn't like his voice. Like, he has a sound that reminds me of Kermit the Frog, which is fine. Other people love him. They were really big, so a lot of other people liked him. I didn't like them. And I didn't know the association. I didn't know that there was any wars going on with Mr. Bungle, which I was a big fan of way back in the day. And I knew nothing about that. Nothing about that up until, shoot, when was it? Maybe 2008? It wasn't that long ago. It might have been just within the past 10 years I found that out. Like, I didn't even know, because we didn't have the internet thing and stuff to be like, where's this drama coming from? And I don't remember it on TV, so, I didn't remember any of that stuff. But I thought it was interesting because they were talking about how they pretty much, they felt anyway, that they kind of destroyed the career of Mr. Bungle, which they were fucking brilliant. Like, we love them. Love them to death. My friend, see, again, my friend introduced me. She was the same one that was saying, you should watch the Radiohead video with, Tom in the in the shopping cart. You'll have the hots for him because he looks like Martin Short. And so then I watch it and I'm like, oh my god, this music is fucking great. And then I became a fan forever. And then same thing with Mr. Bungle. She's like, oh my god, you got to hear this stuff. And I would just listen to it. It's just ear candy. It's just ear candy. I love it. You can listen to it over and over and over again. It's kind of timeless. And but anyway, I didn't like him. I didn't like something about him, and I didn't like his music, and he just annoyed me. And I didn't know anything personal about him or anything like that. So over time, like, I'm reading stuff and people kept saying, oh no, he assaulted so and so. He was with all these like little girls and da 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 da. And I'm like, what? And so, I started kind of looking into it, I don't know, a couple years back or something. And then come to find out, like, he had got arrested for assault. Where is it? He's on this list of like celebrity sex offender scandals, and he's like number 5. And it goes, I mean, he's the only, well, he's not the only rock star. Jim Morrison is on there too, but Pee Wee's on there, Cosby's on there, Tyson's on there, Tupac's on there. They have their single or so incidents or whatever. But for him, this is in 1989. the Red Hot Chili Peppers player, played at George Mason's University in Fairfax County, Virginia. And it says he exposed himself to a woman outside the band's dressing room, which is pretty much like the least of what he has done in his career to somebody. But it's all, he was convicted of indecent exposure and sexual battery. And this is originally, Kiedis was given a $1,000 fine for each charge and sentenced to 60 days in jail. But Kiedis appealed the ruling and the sexual battery charge was overturned. Like, what bullshit is that? So it's like, fuck the girl. He just got away. He has just been getting away with it. And so, like, everybody, I think the viewpoint is like, well, if he never got in trouble, then he must be innocent and, you know, he's a good guy. It's like, no, like, this has kind of been going on and on and on forever and ever and ever, where they don't have any consequences to what they do. So, and there's a similarity with him and R. Kelly. I'll touch on that. So, both these guys had sexual abuse when they were younger. And we could talk about Chester too in this, but Chester is not a predator. Chester wasn't a predator, at least that I'm not aware of. In fact, I didn't even know a lot of this stuff up until he passed away, and it was a really upsetting thing. I was gonna do a video just solely on him, but I think I'm just not going to. I will just bring it up in here where it was brought up that, you know, they need to start talking about males being victims of, you know, sexual assaults and rape and stuff, mostly when they're underage. Because what can happen, it's not that everybody who gets sexually assaulted as a kid is going to turn into a predator. However, some can, and I don't know why one would over the other. I was reading up on it, and it said something like certain factors, such as if there was further abuse, you know, violent abuse. However, in Kiedis's case, um, I don't know. I didn't read the book, so I'm not spending my hard-earned money to buying his stupid damn book. But there was a point where someone said that his dad had his girlfriend, who was like 24 or something, have sex with him when he was 12. So he's a victim. However, how it comes across is that I don't know if he celebrates that. He doesn't identify with the fact maybe that he was a victim, but yet, so it got normalized. So you see in both these cases with R. Kelly, and R. Kelly's like trying to tell you that, yeah, I broke the cycle. I'm like, no, you didn't. I don't know why you're saying that, and I guarantee you that neither of these two got therapy for the situation. And if they did, it wasn't very good therapy. So both of them are in this sort of same category where, you know, I don't know what they're doing with it. They just kind of fucked it off, and they were only dealing with maybe their substance abuse problem or, you know, whatever their other problem. But no, Kiedis has pathy behaviors, meaning that he has an emotional disconnect from everybody else, and he'll just run everybody over. And, you know, and if you look at the Bungle story, I just find it fascinating with all this stuff together because it kind of breaks down his personality a lot, where he has a pathy personality. It's like he'll just fucking run you over. Like, you don't have to know him. He just needs to get somewhere, and if he feels jealous or you're going to be in his way of anything because he feels inferior, he's going to boot your ass out. And so he does this with women. So these type of personality types are just fucking like that. So they'll befriend whoever, wherever they feel that they can, you know, get to their goal. And if it means running over 10 million people doing it, they will. And they'll fucking knock you out of the way. So this is how he approaches girls, young girls, underage girls, because these are the only type of people that would sit there and even put up with this stupid kind of shit. So that's the easiest for him, and that also probably has a lot to do with his sexual abuse when he was younger. So, and no, this isn't a thing to feel pity for him. The saddest part of this is that pretty much everybody goes through the stories and just reads these things on these girls and then just degrades the girls and just says fuck them. And that's part of the rape culture there. So you have this guy, he says this sentence. Um, Let me find it. If I can find it. Okay. So this guy goes on. This is from Amazon on his book, the reviews, and I think it's on the 2-star one. Because there's 1 stars and 2-star reviews. So he's just saying he also was quite the womanizer, and this word womanizer is just really kind of stupid. He's a pretty much a predator. So then he goes out of his way to with very bitchy, self-centered model types, a self-entitled model types. It's like, how do you know this? Like, are these women telling you this is his version? And in fact, when I was going through all this stuff, we found out that he's a liar, and we could actually prove he's a liar because he wrote this autobiography, or this book is about him, and he's talking about how he used all these women and stuff, on shows and all this other bullshit. So he goes and he does another story and says, I don't hook up with groupies or something like that. And it's just like, dude, you know what? Everything you say is full of shit. Like, you're full of shit. So you have to, now that you have proof that he's a fucking liar, now you have to approach his book where there's probably a lot of bullshit in there. And he's going to sit there and tell you things were consensual when they weren't. He's going to tell you all sorts of stuff when it's not true. These girls were totally, pretty much raped by him. And it's like, people are reading it really weird. And this guy even made an excuse for him. So let's go through this line. So he says, on the bottom part here, he says, he has sex knowingly with underage girls. Okay, well, if that's not a problem to you, then you shouldn't even write this out. But then he goes like this, which some folks will find offensive. Though I think it can be contended that a teenager may be mature enough to give consent. No, the laws are very clear. You're a minor, you can't give consent. So depending on which states he was in, as far as he can get away with stuff, no. I guess one was as young as 14. No, I don't know any state that has 14 being okay. And of course his story is going to be, well, I didn't know. That is a typical line, and this is just how it's going to be. So I don't know the whole details of that, but this is how it goes. And for him to even go, oh, I think she's 16, it's like, what are you doing, dude? You would, if you cared, if you even fucking cared, you would ask for an ID. You would want to fucking know. Because you don't want to get in trouble. But he didn't give a fuck. So we know he likes the underage girls. So, but I was particularly horrified by the account of the Japanese virgin. Now, mind you, how do you know the other teenagers weren't virgins? I don't know if you're just upset because the girl was a virgin, but let's go on. He painstakingly convinces to have sex. So he coerced, which is a form of rape. I don't know how old the Japanese virgin was because it doesn't say. To have sex with him while on chore, and then blows off with the shrug, and she wants to see him again. Like, he just blows her off, whatever. So yes, I don't understand why a Japanese version upsets you more than underage teenagers who are not developed enough to understand his bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, if he's coercing people, he's a rapist, and mostly minors. So I don't, the mentality here on people trying to rationalize his behavior as being normal when it's not. So then he goes on, not the writer, but another person who was putting down the book. But since I haven't read the book, so I'm pulling out some of the quotes of people that have read the book to say some of the reasons why they really did not like this. Um, this book is utterly disgusting. I don't say that because of the drugs and sex. So yeah, I mean, you go through a lot of rock stars books and stuff, and they, there's a lot of drugs and there's a lot of sex stuff. It's sort of like the same old boring story. It's like, what are you proving? You got fucking problems, and whatever, you probably have a tank of STDs. I don't know why you're bragging about it, but that's the thing. So he's like, I say that because Kiedis writes about being a 12-year-old who has sex with a 24-year-old. So in his life, he goes on to admit to having and sometimes coercing sex from girls, which is rape. and who are underage. So you have somebody that's preying on minors and coercing them into sex. Yes, that's a rapist. So I don't understand. Maybe because when people are reading this, they don't understand what rape is. Like the whole definition of what rape is. I don't know. So then it says none of these scenarios are ever reflected on with any kind of depth, or in some cases requiring remorse. No, he doesn't feel remorse because he thinks he's a path. He has a path. He has path tendencies. I don't know what's wrong with him. Maybe because of the way his father, maybe he wasn't around, and when he was around, he just was abusive in a sense, not where like he's beating him up. Like, I don't know, I didn't read the book, but like doing things that is not very parental, you know what I mean? So he has no boundaries, and so he thinks this is sort of normal, you know, normal behaviors. It's very reckless behaviors, it's pathy behaviors, it's just running over everybody, not giving a fuck. So that's Kiedis in a nutshell. So it says on top of that, the book is downright boring, and he goes on a drug binge and heroin sex and da 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 da, repeat, repeat, repeat. Yeah, he's got, and then it says, okay, yeah, I thought it said something else at the end. So yeah, I mean that pretty much sums him up, and he's never got in trouble. Like he's never really gotten in trouble for any of this. So he can literally go write a book and say how he raped and did all this shit to underage girls and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot, and he never gets in trouble. And then you see people in the industry. I don't have to name them. You can go search them. And then, well, this picture here too is also with that damn photographer, that piece of shit photographer. It's like, yes, so I don't expect him to stand up for any like anti-rape, anti-anything. So, but you'll see a lot of his friends, and some of them are people who like they didn't help you out in the industry. They didn't help me out. They didn't help anybody out as far as like not putting a stop to any of this type of stuff. No, even though they said, you know, a lot of them they were victims, maybe because they were such victims, they just put up with that, and they were attracted to these type of people. Like, I don't know, like for me it was quite the opposite. I really wanted to be away from a lot of the bad people, and they just kind of cling to you like shit. But so what else about this that I wanted to say? Oh, so yeah, then another thing, this was like the this sentence was like rape culture in a nutshell too, and it's just like I was reading it going, what? So this person, right, goes, I was one of those 12 people when Red Hot Chili Peppers were there, and it was at some show or something weird. Richard Parkasakian, I don't know, of Eon's Fashion Antique recalls. I remember Flea whipping it out, and Anthony pushing his bare butt in a girl's face sitting in the table next to me. And then he goes, I knew then they were meant for stardom. I'm like, really? So basically, because a guy goes and he like sexually assaults some girl, that he is going to be a fucking star. I mean, I read this sentence and I'm like, what? Some guy's going to be sitting there going, yeah. And it's like, well, this is the problem. And then on top of that, I can get his ass arrested if some guy just fucking randomly did that. And it doesn't tell you the background of the story. Like, is the girl like underage? It just sounds like Andy Dick behavior, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't tell you anything else that's going on here. But and then just to be like, woo, like that's cool. It's like that poor girl, you know, like girls sometimes will just put up with it, and mostly if nobody's getting in trouble, what you gonna do? Like me, I would probably fucking beat the shit out of him today if somebody did that to me. Like back then, I don't know how I would have reacted. I think that would have freaked me out. Like I think it would have just legitimately like freaked me out. And thank God no one stuck their nasty ass fucking ass in my face. But that's his behavior. I mean, it's not even being like I'm being funny. It's like just gonna go back to this R. Kelly thing. So R. Kelly goes on. Where does he go? So he tells GQ, he's all the abuse which he tells GQ lasted from when he was 7 or 8, when he was 14 or 15, I don't, you know what? When I was reading this the first time, I totally believed the story. But then when I read it the second time, I wasn't sure if maybe he's like schizophrenic. Like, I don't know. Like, there's something weird about this. And it's not that it's because I don't believe victims. It's just he doesn't remember when it started, but he. Okay, when you're 14 or 15, you would remember 14 or 15. I can understand being confused about 7 or 8, but 14 or 15, that's like your high school, or just starting high school, somewhere around there. Because I was 16 when I graduated, so 15. Yeah, 15 would be like 10th grade, 14 would be ninth. So you would be able to figure that out. I don't know. That was kind of the first kind of weird thing. So, but I understand people sometimes they don't have their memories very well. But then it kind of gets kind of weird. So he's like, started one day when he woke up from a nap to find a woman playing with them. I tried to push her away, but she wouldn't stop until she was finished. When she was, she said, "You better not say shit to no one, or else you'll get into a terrible whipping." And then he's like, at first, I couldn't judge it. I remember it feeling weird. I remember feeling ashamed. I remember closing my eyes or keeping my hands over my eyes. I remember those things, but couldn't judge it one way or the other fully. The abuse became a regular event in his life, every other day, every other week, he says, and his feelings changed over time. I remember actually after a couple of years looking forward to it sometimes, acting like I didn't, but did. When I started having a girlfriend, I felt really bad about it. Then I started getting older and knowing that's just not supposed to happen. Family members, and I think it started getting scary for them because I just started acting really different about it, and I think it became a turn off to them and a scary thing. And she told me sometimes when you're kids, you think you've been through something or didn't, or I think he was trying to tell somebody about it. So it's like she told me sometimes when you're kids, you think you've been through something or did something that you didn't do, probably was a dream, things like that, but it was definitely not a dream. So it said the ignition singer also talked about long-term effects of the abuse he says he endured. It teaches you to definitely be sexually earlier than you should have, than you're supposed to. No different than putting a loaded gun in a kid's hand. He he's gonna grow up being a shooter probably. I think it affects you tremendously when that happens at an early age to be more hornier. Your hormones are up more than they would normally be. Mine was. I don't know. It's just these weird comments. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if he has any other mental problems or. I don't know. Still, despite the sexual assault allegations he faced over the years, Kelly tells GQ he broke the cycle of abuse. How can he even say that? He's in the middle of getting in trouble. I think within this article, when it was done, like he was getting in trouble or was after getting in trouble, and he's all with 15-year-olds. And I was going to point out two things on both these guys' story, but he goes, I feel the child molestation part that definitely was broken, but of course you're going to be misunderstood because you are Kelly and the success and things get mixed up in the music. What? Dude, not every artist is getting accused of touching minors and shit. You know what I mean? Like, I always love it when they act like, oh, because I'm a celebrity, I'm getting targeted. I'm getting targeted because I'm so and so. I'm R. Kelly, dude. They all want to bring me down, dude. If people loved you and you weren't touching people, no one's really gonna fuck with you. If you're doing something weird, because even like the Michael Jackson thing, let's say you believe that he never touched kids, right? He's doing something weird. He's sleeping with kids in a bed. So there's a catapult to thinking that maybe some shit's going on. It's not like somebody went, we're just gonna fuck with Michael Jackson today. Like, this is the bullshit. I don't know where it comes from. I guess it's just because of guilty parties always making up stories for themselves that it just becomes this like broken record of excuses, like they're coming for me because I'm so and so. And it's like, granted, yeah, we do know like there are some idiots from time to time, but it's like if you're in real life with a 15-year-old, yeah, no, this isn't you're being targeted. you're doing something fucking wrong. And it's like, even today, it's like I said on the other clip, I go, the parents are completely worried. My suggestion, I'm like, if this was somebody I knew, if this R. Kelly was my friend, which thank God is not, um, I would tell him, you need to let the girls go and you need to go into therapy. You need to go into therapy for a while. You need to go take yourself out of here and get away and go get your fucking therapy. Because obviously you have not gone. You have not gone. If you had this going on and then you're sick. And if this is what I was going to point out. So regardless, if this story is true or not from him, right? Let's say it happened, right? Because that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he has any other mental illnesses that, maybe, I don't know. Like, it just, something came off kind of weird about it, but maybe it's just because it's an uncomfortable topic, but it's just the way he explained it. I don't know. But he said it stopped around 14 or 15. So that is the age when it stopped, right? So the abuse stopped at 14 or 15. So then he's with girls that are 15, like at the age that he claims that it stopped, right? So this is kind of his sort of targeted age. So I thought, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like, for somebody who never got help and they normalize the behavior, it doesn't mean that he's thinking of touching his own family members, but that doesn't mean that you're going to go on to go touch your own family members. It's just the age thing, and you're preying on young girls. And it's kind of sickening to read stuff where guys are like, that's normal. I was like, no, this particular thing is not normal. And there's a lot of guys that have not come out about their sexual abuse. So with them not coming out, and then if in some of those cases they turn into a predator, I mean, it's like, this guy's still in his like denial thing. So Anthony Kiedis, the same thing. Like, he had sex when he was 12, so he's targeting like as young as 14. Like, he's pretty much, like, in his mind, he has normalized the behavior. And then everybody else like pats him on the back, like, it's cool, dude, or I feel sorry for you, because not because of that, but they feel sorry for him because of his drug thing or something. Like, they're trying to relate to him on that level, and totally fucking up all the victims. Like, on both these stories, everybody has fucked up all the victims, like calling them just groupies and stuff. Like, they're not human, and that's really a big problem. So I wanted to point that out. And then I think I made an error on my other clip bringing up Bjork's name. When I was trying to find the article that I had read to bring that even up at all. What I think what happened was, she was talking about the sexism in the industry, and then in the same article they brought up another artist, I think from Iceland or something, where she had been propositioned from producers to have sex with them or something for recording. So I think that's how that came about. In case somebody was listening to it going, Bjork, what happened to Bjork? And Bjork, be like, what? I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Um, I don't know, because I couldn't find it. I was pretty sure I read something like that, and I was really sad. Like, I was just reading it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just not surprised. I mean, there's so many other people, like, Courtney Love said that she had all this stuff, Ted Nugent stuff. But Courtney's another one. Courtney also hangs out or hung out with Anthony Kiedis and every single bad person under the sun, and Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent is terrible. But again, she is or was a victim, from what I understand. So maybe her actions are just from not, being well, from everything. And so I don't know. But nobody has actually came through that industry and was like, fuck all this shit. Like, everybody's just kind of like maneuvered around it, and I'm just reading all these excuses for Anthony Kiedis and all these excuses for R. Kelly and all these same women who are saying they're victims working with these people, and that's the shit right there. That's what I'm trying to tell you, and that just drives me insane. I'm like, if you're going to keep talking about it and then you're going to be hanging out with the same people that do it, and you've just literally ran over like a million women in these stories, like, you don't even know who they are. Like, these guys just make up stories and they're writing books on it, and they're just trashing these women like they're just nothing. There's no names to them, or some of them there might be names to, but you don't know anything about them, and they be maybe in therapy right now because they couldn't fucking deal with this shit and don't even want to be known, you know what I mean? And it's just like, there's real people on the other side of that, and neither of these guys have any concept of that because they're just their paths, and like I said, I don't believe that either one of those two have gone through therapy for those particular issues. They probably have for drug issues and other problems, but I don't think so because they wouldn't be doing what they were doing, and for so long too, for so long. And the fact that other people defend them, and there was a story too saying, "Am I? Can a feminist be a fan of them?" No, but neither any normal rational human being shouldn't be. Like, you should look at this and be like, I don't agree with this behavior. Like, I really don't care if you want to go off and do your drugs and have sex with like consenting adults that are sober or whatever, because you don't want to be having sex with a bunch of women that are fucking blacked out, because then you're going to be doing Mr. Cosby. But if you're doing those things in consensual situations, more power to you. Nobody cares because you're not hurting anyone. But then when you go into this level of shit and be like, yeah, I'm fucking rocks. I can do whatever the fuck I want and da 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 da. No, no. Like today, that shit doesn't fly as well. You guys had totally taken over the industry. You only hear your own damn voices, and that's just not gonna fly anymore. And there's gonna be more and more women that are gonna finally go, you know what, I got some guys that did this to me, and I'm gonna come out. I feel a lot more comfortable now coming out because we're all right here. We're all right here. And you don't have your big pack of buddies anymore when there's a shit tank of women now that are ready to kick your ass.